You were educated at a convent, weren't you?
Mm.
Was that hard going, or was it quite a pleasant life?
Well, it was pleasant because I was very young, therefore it was pleasant.
Yes.
But the convent was not pleasant because I wasn't a Catholic or anything when I went there. My father was an atheist, and I was totally, wasn't my thing at all. And they had to change me. And they changed me. By the time I was 10, I was a Catholic. And I was a Catholic till I was 17, but by that time I was already beginning to get very messed up in my mind. But sort of, I don't know, it was just very, it was very strange, sort of weird things like a week of total retreat, you know, which was totally loony, and you could just read anything, and we used to read the most incredible things. It was all right, because it was so long ago and nice and young.
But you're not a Catholic now?
No.
What is your faith? Do you have a faith?
I'm getting very, very interested in pagan England. And, you know, you can reject Catholic, yeah, and all these things. And India seems to be, people seem to turn to India. But it's so far away from me. It isn't part of my, it's just not, we don't really relate to India.
No.
It's for them. I think our scene is very interesting, before they messed it.
Yes, I feel this very much, that one seems to see a generation that is very nihilistic, and I think, in fact, a lot of young people today would probably answer that they don't believe in God and they don't believe in life after death. Do you think there is anything replacing this lack, as it were, this lack of faith in the modern generation? Or is it just a belief in themselves?
No, it's neither. Most young people I know actually believe in reincarnation, which is another thing altogether. I believe in reincarnation.
Oh, I find that very way out. Tell me why you believe in that.
Because otherwise there's no hope. It's totally unfair. This terrible, terrible idea of total damnation or total paradise, which is simply not possible, really. And it works out. You can really understand it so much better if you realize that it's part of a long plan. And the whole thing is a very long plan, and we've all been going through it lots of times. And each time we're trying to get a bit more, each life.
But isn't the now sufficient to you? Isn't the moment of existing here and now sufficient?
Absolutely. It's not sufficient, because sufficient isn't the scene. But it's a gas, and that's the main thing. You can't hang yourselves up with the past or with the future. But if you can see it in a very big way, you find that the problems, those little things that people moan about, recede a lot.
Have you read books on psychology? I mean, are you self-aware, as it were?
Psychology I've always thoroughly disliked, because my father and my grandfather were very involved in it, and they laid it on me, and I didn't think it. So psychology, I never want to see a psychologist. I do that. But I think spiritually it's much more interesting. And science, real science, is where it's at. Real science, finding the fourth dimension.
Your mother said of you, the minute Marianne gets to London, someone will discover her, and indeed they did.
Absolutely, it was incredibly loony.
I mean, did you literally arrive overnight with a suitcase in your hand, and,
No.
and the following week?
No.
No.
No, I just came up for a party. They said, would you like to come to a party in London? And I said, oh, I've never been to a party in London. Okay. And I went to a party with the man I later married, John, a long time ago. And Andrew Oldham was at the party and discovered me. It was very funny.
You've said, you've been quoted as saying that he is your Svengali and you're his Trilby. I mean, to what an extent does he have a tremendous influence on your life?
He has no influence at all. A long time ago, he did, because I didn't know what I was doing. And he said everything for me. I mean, even when they discovered me, it was incredible. I was just standing there, and there was John, and there was Andrew Oldham, and they weren't talking to me. They were saying, Andrew said to him, can she sing? And he said, I don't know. And they talked about me like this, and then they said, can you sing? And it was incredible. I didn't know what was happening.
But I tell you what is extraordinary about it, and looking through, as I have been today, through your press clippings, you seem to have been fortunate inasmuch as you associated with tremendously professional people who really did know the scene and they knew how to make it happen. How much do you think this has been a major contribution in your career thus far, that you have been associated with tremendously gifted people?
Well, it's everything, absolutely everything. Andrew, for what he does, is the best person in the world who does it. For just making what he did, a face, and he just did it. He was brilliant.
After the success of your first pop record, As Tears Go By, and your subsequent follow-ups, you did a series of one-night stands. Were these terribly grueling?
Yes.
It
was terrible.
What is it? Is it just the physical exhaustion of having to travel around at such a speed?
Well, there are two levels. The first lot I did were what they call tours, which are really not too bad, where you go out for 5 weeks. Oh, 5 weeks with all these groups that are very nice. They're all nice, and you have quite a nice time, but it's just too long. But you play in theatres, and the audience sit down and are quiet, and it's all right, and the acoustics are good, and it's okay. That I could make. And then after that, because you get much more money if you work in ballrooms, and I needed money very badly then. So I did all these ballrooms, and they were so terrible. I just didn't know what I was doing. Incredible thing once in Aberdeen, right at far, far away, in the Palais in Aberdeen, and I was trying to sing folk songs to these people, incredible Scottish rockers, all yelling obscenities at me. So I drew myself very tall and said, very sort of high voice, "I'm sure that all people of all classes can appreciate folk music." And sort of burst into tears, and they just threw things at me. It was just incredible. All classes could. So it was a disaster. So I had to stop that.
You say that you needed money. How conscious of money are you in the doors that money can open?
Well, it's really boring to just buy private jet planes. And money can be used for very big things, because if you can get enough people who've got a lot of money, you can change things that happen. You can start things that only governments can do usually. You can do things not for power, but just for a gas, and because things are so awful.
But you worked, for instance, at the Royal Court when you did The Three Sisters, which was quite a triumph for you. I mean, you worked, it's been reported, for £30 a week when you could have been making a lot more money. So, to a great extent...
But I enjoyed that much more than I do when I'm making a lot of money, somehow, because they're not using you at all. They're using you for what you've really got. I mean, they're paying £30 a week, and all they want from you is for you to work.
But you do get comfort, do you, from a bank balance, from knowing that you are quids in?
I don't think I've had a bank balance for 3 years. I think they took my checkbook away the first 6 months I was in the pop business, and I wasn't allowed a checkbook, and I was bouncing checks all over. So I never had a checkbook for ages. And I have a bit of money which I'm not allowed to touch, because I really have no idea. If I have money, I can't keep it.
Well, some people think that one of the contributing factors to the diminishing output of the Beatles, although when they do make records, they are fantastic. Some people think that it is because of the extreme luxury in which they live, that somehow it is a devitalizing factor.
This is very true of someone like Elvis Presley, because all Elvis Presley wanted was money. And when you get money, then you stop having your vision. But the Beatles have got an incredible vision. Money, they got that ages ago. They don't think about it anymore. Now they don't put out as much, because to get the quality, to get something really great, it takes a really long time, and they work for ages to get those things.
Apropos the royal court and the Three Sisters, there was an outcry at the time because some people said that the audition was rigged, and it was very interesting in that at least 2 newspapers printed an apology about this afterwards,
Yeah.
admitting that it wasn't so.
No, it wasn't.
How did you feel at the time of actually having to go and be auditioned and fight against, how many was it, 30 other girls?
I didn't have to do that. I don't know when he auditioned the other girls, but I didn't see them. But he auditioned me. He auditioned me, in fact, twice. It was I got more than they got, you know, more grilling than anyone else, because he auditioned them all, and then he auditioned me, like, you know, and then he still didn't know what he wasn't sure at all, and he auditioned me again, and this time really hard, like he made me read it, and then he was, you know, it was such a decision for him. It certainly wasn't anything like that. I didn't go through a thing of sitting waiting with 30 girls, you know, if that's what they call an audition. But I went through a pretty strange experience.
How are you at auditions and camera tests? Are you more nervous at that sort of occasion than when you actually get down to filming or cutting a disc?
I hate it. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind auditions on the theatre, but film tests, I hate them. I don't want to do them. I hate them.
Is this because you feel that you're being, as it were, manipulated?
Yeah, and they don't.
And I get the feeling, and the parts in which you yourself, your own character...
Really want, yes, that's absolutely true, yeah. Because the things I've got tested for are things that in my heart I knew I didn't really want to do. And they must know that, however much I pretend I want something. It's probably, you can see that I'm not, this isn't my scene, you know. These things I was going to do, they must have known that they weren't my sort of thing.
If you are, therefore, as reliant upon your own, what you can invest in a part and what you personally can give, rather than, as it were, take a characterization from outside and superimpose this on your own personality, do you feel that there might come a time when Marianne Faithfull, as such, is overexposed?
No.
When you married, was this... to a certain extent, a search for security? I get the feeling that at the time you were insecure, and that perhaps it might have been a subconscious feeling for security, which you very quickly, as it were, grew up. You seem to have grown up in the space of the 3 years, tremendously quickly. Was your getting married and then the subsequent failure due really to the tremendous rate and growth of your whole development?
Yeah. I can't talk about it. You've said it. It's incredible you know all that about me. It is true. That is true. I was frightened. Very frightened of everything, and of being involved in these things. I didn't fit in. I felt that very badly. I don't anymore. I don't care. But then I felt as if I didn't fit in. People were uncomfortable when I was around. This wasn't my scene. And I loved him very much, and he was my first love. And we'd had another life, because in Cambridge, when I was at school and he was at Cambridge, and we didn't think it would happen. We didn't know what was going to happen. So.
You see, the danger, or perhaps not danger, but the pitfall I see in what you just said is the possibility that an experience like that at quite a tender age could make one rather cynical.
Yeah, well, it could. But it's something that you've got to see and not do. Like, I realized that. I realized, you better watch it, dear, you're going to be cynical soon.
Yeah.
You know, which is really pointless to be cynical. Why waste time being cynical? Everyone looks through the back, you know.
Yes.
And, you know, it doesn't matter what happened there. And things get better. Things really have got so... I mean, the political situation of the country, you know, but sort of people have got much more less concerned with things that don't really matter. Like, you know, even images and all that sort of thing.
You feel, therefore, do you, that life for you, to a great extent, has been a series of relationships, some better and some worse.
Mm.
And in as much as your marriage was concerned, it was a very worthwhile experience.
Well, it was really worthwhile because we got this really groovy child who we both need very much and who I guess needs us, I hope. And we still, we were very, we can get a lot from each other still, but we can't be married.
But you don't feel you've opted out. You see, I'm thinking that some women would be jealous of your ability, I see it as an ability, to opt out and say, well, I can still have this, but I want more. Do you see what I'm getting at?
It's what yeah, I see, and it's exactly what I did. I realized there was this marriage, this thing called marriage. I knew a lot about it because of my own parents, but I still wanted to see if I could make it. I really thought I could. Honestly, when I did it, I thought, I will do this. And then I really changed so much, and now I don't think marriage is a sin at all. You know, I don't want to get married again. I can't see the point of all the. It's such a miserable thing. It makes people so miserable unless they're of that sort, which you were saying. That, I mean, both people have to subordinate themselves. You know, it's not a question of the all-powerful man. You know, the men go through as many indignities as the women in the whole contract nasty. You know, all you need is one.
Yes.
No, but it's true. You don't. If you are happy with somebody, be with them while you're happy. And when you're not happy, split. And it's the best way for everybody and for the child. And people say, you know, for the child, you stay together. Personally, I know what a bad scene it's for the child, and it's just not. You know, children can see through sham marriages like no one thinks they can, and it doesn't. They're not fooled, and they get really funny about it.
You see, this is independence. It's youth talking, but clearly you're not the sort of person who is the least bit concerned as to what your life will be like when you're 30 or when you're 35 or 40. But undoubtedly, back of a lot of people's minds when they do get married and they do settle down, is of having somebody there, the security of knowing whatever else the world may do to them, however hard and however bloody it might become, there is one person there who they can hold on to, and they say, whatever else may crumble, at least I have this person, and I've put a large portion of my life into getting this person to understand me and me understand them.
And then when they're 40, that person turns back and goes and gets a chick who's 18 and goes out, and the wife is writing letters to the Lonely Hearts column.
You must have them, because every living person does, when suddenly the world is hostile, when suddenly you wake up one morning and you literally don't want to get out of bed, and you feel that you can't face the world because the strength that you had the day before seems to have gone.
Well, then you've got to go back to sleep and dream and go into another world. You see, there are lots of worlds. I mean, people just think this is the only one there is. And if this world is hanging you up, go off into another one. You can. I mean, it sounds very fey and, you know, I don't want to nonsense. But it is possible if people could remember how to do it, and they really have forgotten. You know, you can transcend all these things in your own mind, and you can't always take people you love with you. You can't, because people have their own... And when you think what's in your mind, it's incredible.
But don't you think it gets harder? I mean, clearly, as you become a commercial property, which, well, let's face it, one just does when one is in this business.
Yeah, but you know, it just doesn't. There is a choice. I'm sure there's a choice. You know, you don't have to become a commercial property. There's a way of turning this whole business around completely.
But what I'm saying is that as these pressures clearly pile up on one, Miss Faithfull, you wanted for a photo call on Wednesday morning. Yeah. Miss Faithfull, we have a recording session on Friday afternoon, 2:30. You've got to get in your car, you've got to get there, you get home feeling tired, you've got to get up next morning early for some other business. I mean, clearly, as just the pressure of staying with it and of advancing one's career and of meeting hard, often very commercially minded people, it surely must get harder to dream.
Yeah, really, very, very, very hard. But they don't have time to give me things to do.
But are you ever afraid that you might pin your hopes on a false star? In other words, if you met somebody who you thought was tremendously professional and who could offer you something very vital and interesting career-wise, and that afterwards you might look back and find that it was a ghastly mistake. I mean, let's face it, Three Sisters could have been a disaster, couldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Is this the excitement for you, really?
Yes, it doesn't matter what the star turns out to be, as long as you've got a star, you know? As long as there's something you're going towards. If it doesn't work out, then you've got to find another one.